So the last week or so has been a little bit of a nightmare for the UFC, with the UFC 303 main event falling out with Conor McGregor, the main event of this card falling out with Khamzat Chimaev, and then 3 fights fell out as well, with Dennis Tulin versus Strickis Dumas falling apart, and then as well as now we have Muhammad Naimov fighting Felipe Lima, and Sharabutdin Magomedov is now going to be fighting against Antonio Trocoli. I will get to my predictions for those 2 fights in just a second. I did want to talk about a couple of things before we get into that. The first one is the reason why I don't already have predictions out for those 2 fights is because I recorded my full card prediction video last weekend actually, so those fights of course weren't announced at the time, and I usually do a very quick reaction and quick breakdown kind of a couple of hours after the fights are announced, and I couldn't have really done that just because I did have my final exam this morning, and that's all done. My exams are now all done for the semester, so I'm pretty happy about that. If you didn't know, I am an engineering university student studying civil engineering, to kind of put it generally, but I'm a little more specialized in, I guess, more like environmental stuff, like think of wind turbines and wastewater management and hydropower dams and just stuff like that. Think of the environment, but also civil engineering combined together. That's what I'm studying, in case you had any interest in that. And another one as well is, just before we get into my predictions, I did want to thank everybody for the support on my channel. Recently, the last month, my channel has probably got the most support I've ever got in my channel, so thank you guys so much for that. I do believe a lot of it did come as well from Lucas Tracy giving me a couple of massive shout outs, so thank you to him, but also just a lot of natural growth as well in my channel recently has been very much appreciated. For everyone that has kind of discovered my channel and watched and subscribed, if you didn't know, my channel's not new. I mean, I've been doing YouTube for 3 years now, and I've kind of been chilling out in my own little niche, doing my own little thing, and now also working for UFC Picks, which has been a great boost as well. But thanks to everyone that has been subscribing recently. Now let's get into my picks for this card. I'm going to try not waffle too much, but to be honest with you, I'm not operating on a lot of sleep. I did sleep not too much last night because I had a little bit of a nap, and then I did a lot of study before my exam in the morning, so I'm quite tired. And when I'm tired, I just tend to waffle, so I do apologize about that. But if you wanted to just know the pick for the fight, I am actually picking Felipe Lima to win this one here. And to get into it, I just think he's really good. I do. I really do. That's just what it comes down to be honest. He is surprisingly just plus 100 in the odds. I did expect him to be a little bit more of an underdog, but I feel like maybe him just being plus 100 is actually maybe a lot of the betting, the betting public or the sharps kind of actually agree with me and understand how good Felipe Lima really is, because if you don't know, Lima actually opened as a plus 200 underdog, and I tweeted in the response to Fight High Odds announcing those odds, saying Felipe Lima's better than that, guys. And it seems like a lot of people have agreed with me on that one, and a lot of money must have come in on Lima at that plus 200, plus 180, plus 150 price tag, because now he's been bet all the way down to nearly even odds. He's good, man. And the thing about Felipe Lima is I think he's actually got a good matchup to beat Naimov. The real X factor, in my opinion, is just the fact that it is short notice. Now, Felipe Lima, I think he has all of the skill in the world to actually make something really big happen for himself and his career at bantamweight. I believe that at 26 years old, this guy does have the potential and the skill set and the talent to potentially become a ranked bantamweight one day, and that does mean a lot, and it does hold a lot of weight when you do consider how stacked that bantamweight division is in the UFC. You know, I think you've got guys like, I don't even think Ricky Simone, for example, is ranked right now at that weight class. That's how stacked that weight class truly is. Felipe Lima, I think he's got a lot of talent, man. He's not really that good at striking, I will admit that. I think he's got decent kicks, but his boxing definitely needs a lot of work. It is a little bit sloppy, and I think he can make pretty poor, not fight IQ decisions, but I feel like just poor decisions on the feet in general, and I think that might just be a lack of experience for him, and maybe just a lot of ring excitement in his fight against Jonas Magard, because that was his first fight in about a year and a half. He was actually meant to fight against Xiao Long on a Road to UFC bonus fight, who's actually fighting on this card. This Xiao Long, who's fighting in the opening bout, on a Road to UFC bonus fight, which I believe if he won, he would have actually been signed earlier on. But he's just talented, man. I was really impressed by his fight against Jonas Magard, watching it back. And I feel like being a champion of Octagon means something, because Octagon, they're a big promotion. I don't want to get into them too much because I feel like I would probably just start talking about Octagon for the next 25 minutes, but I rate Octagon very, very highly, and I understand you look at Jonas Magard and you probably don't think that he is the best fighter in the world. It still was a fantastic performance. He showcased all of his skills in that wrestling and the grappling, and I think it can translate over to fighting someone like Muhammad Naimov, because Muhammad Naimov, he was planning on fighting a pure striker and Malsik Bagdasaryan, a guy who is not going to want to wrestle at all and is going to want to strike with him, and now he's got a polar opposite matchup here in Felipe Lima. And the thing with Naimov is he's a Taekwondo world champion, so you know he's a good striker, and he has showcased that in the UFC, but I do feel like there is still a couple of asterisks, maybe, especially on this Nathaniel Wood fight. Now, I actually do very much respect the performance that he put up against Jamie Malaki. I think knocking out Jamie Malaki, in hindsight, even if Jamie Malaki may not have the best chin, on short notice, on a few days' notice, up a weight class like that, does hold a lot of weight. In fact, I believe this fight wasn't in Australia, but it was still impressive nonetheless. What I have seen him struggle with, though, in the past is, of course, the wrestling. Now, he has been taken down a lot before, but it's worth noting, these fights were a few years ago now, and I do understand fighters improve, fighters get better, but that has been a weakness for Naimov previously in his career, and now kind of going in against a guy in Felipe Lima who is going to want to wrestle and is want to grapple and has the skill set to do so. I think it might actually end up being a pretty tough stylistic matchup for him. So I do like Lima to wrestle, I do like him to grapple. I don't think he's the better striker in the matchup at all, but I do think that he's got the skills to get the takedowns and to get the grappling going. Another thing I like about Lima, but also don't like as well at the same time, is he actually isn't the biggest bantamweight in the world, so that is going to mean he's not going to have to cut any weight, really. If you do watch his fight against Jonas Magard, he was the smaller guy in the cage there. But once again, that does mean that he's not going to have to cut that much weight on short notice, and I think a lot of people might have concern of him traveling from Brazil over to Saudi Arabia. To my knowledge, Felipe Lima doesn't actually train in Brazil. I actually think he trains somewhere in Europe. Now, I could be wrong about that, but the Octagon is based in the Czech Republic, to my knowledge, and I do think he actually trains in one of those countries. Now, I think it might be Germany, but I'm prepared to be proven wrong on that one, but I don't think he has been training in Brazil all that recently, so the trip wouldn't have been as massive from Brazil to Saudi Arabia to wherever it was that he come from. Yeah, oh, sorry guys, I'm tired, but that's it. I'm thinking Felipe Lima. Let's move on to Sharabutdin Magomedov versus Trocoli. I mean, here's the thing about Trocoli. I'm not going to give him too much prop until he steps in the ring. But shout out to him for taking all of these short notice fights nonetheless. Now, he has disappointed me a little bit. A lot, actually. He won his fight here and got a no contest because he failed a drug test to USADA. Didn't fight for over 2 years and then fought just a fat welterweight, to be honest with you. Looked good, though, in the fight, if that means anything. And then he took a short notice fight against OSP and pulled out. Short notice fight against Umar Sar and pulled out. I was told he pulled out of this fight against Alaskarov. Wrong. Alaskarov actually ended up fighting Whitaker. And now, Trocoli gets to fight on this card against Sharabutdin Magomedov. Now, I'm going to cough in a second. Hold on. Let me just mute the mic. Now, what I find interesting about this fight, though, is when Sharabutdin Magomedov accepted the fight to fight against Jordan Lauterbach, he actually declined Antonio Trocoli. Antonio Trocoli was actually the number one option to fight against Sharabutdin Magomedov on short notice when they ended up siding with Lauterbach, because apparently Magomedov declined the fight against Trocoli. Now, it could have just been because he didn't believe he was going to make the weight. And I'll be honest with you, on 3 days' notice, Trocoli's pretty big. He's 6'5" with an 82-inch reach. And he's a light heavyweight who hasn't fought in 2.5 years. I'd be very impressed if he can make 185. Very impressed. And another thing about Antonio Trocoli that I have heard through the grapevine, it's probably not going to affect the odds too much if I say this. Okay, that was I think he's minus 700. I think Sharabutdin Magomedov is minus 700. I'm hoping this doesn't get me in trouble. I've been told that Trocoli hasn't been training. Apparently he spent over a year not training hard in the gym. And that was information that I found out leading into his Kromoliskov fight. So that's information I have on him. Won't say anything else. That's it. But the Trocoli, to my knowledge, is a grappler. It's hard to tell, and honestly, that sounds really stupid, but it's hard to tell because he hasn't fought for 2.5 years, and when someone doesn't fight for 2.5 years, I think that's scary, because it could mean one or two things. It could mean that he's been in the gym every single day, absolutely hustling, absolutely grinding, maybe even doing some coaching and learning, maybe even traveling overseas to Thailand to work on Muay Thai or something like that. You never know with these guys that have massive layoffs, or it could mean he's been doing nothing and sitting on the couch, and trying to wife up Mackenzie Dern. Who knows? And before that, he hadn't fought. This guy's fought twice in 5 years. How am I supposed to know how good he is? Honestly, that's genuinely my take. I think that Sharabutdin Magomedov could struggle in this matchup. I genuinely think that, because Trocoli's 6'5", Magomedov's not the biggest middleweight, and Trocoli's grappler. And Magomedov showed bad takedown defense against Bruno Silva. Not bad. He defended 4 takedowns out of Bruno Silva's 7 attempts, but you know, Bruno Silva ain't wrestling nobody aside from him, you know. So I'm like, I think there's genuine concern. I do. I'm gonna pick Magomedov, but at -700, don't bet on Magomedov. This is a bad matchup for him though, because Trocoli, as I said, he's 6'5". He looks big at light heavyweight. If he can, this is at 185. If he can, I don't know if he can make 185 on 3 days for Trocoli is going to be a tough cut. He's 6'5". I'll say it again. He's 6'5". It's going to be a tough cut for him, man. He's not going to be as good at striking as Sharabutdin Magomedov, because I would be pretty willing to say Sharabutdin Magomedov probably is one of the better strikers in the middleweight division of the UFC. But Trocoli, man, like, I don't know how good he is, man. Look, this guy could have been working on his wrestling for 2.5 years, and he's been waiting for this opportunity to out-wrestle someone like Magomedov, who's a pure striker. But I'm going to go with Magomedov by KO in the first round, but I wouldn't put money on him at -700, guys. I think you leave this fight alone. This is the ultimate fade fight, and with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for the support, though. I really do appreciate it.